2015, Bill Eskew was diagnosed with lung cancer. His doctor, a specialist at one of the most respected cancer centers in the country, recommended a specific kind of radiation, one built to protect the healthy tissue around a tumor, not just attack the tumor itself. His insurance company read the request and sent back a letter. 2 words in that letter decided what kind of treatment Bill Eskew would receive for a disease that was trying to kill him. Not necessary. Years later, a jury would put a number on what those 2 words cost him. $200 million. Every health insurance policy makes the same basic promise. If you get sick and your doctor says you need a treatment, we'll cover it. Bill Eskew had that kind of policy through Shara Health and Life, a subsidiary of United Healthcare, one of the largest insurers in the country. In 2015, that promise was tested. Bill was diagnosed with lung cancer, and like anyone would, he did exactly what the system asks you to do. He went to the experts, he followed medical advice, he trusted that his coverage would follow him there. Here's the phrase that decided almost every disputed health insurance claims in America: medically necessary. It sounds simple, but in fact, it's not. Every health policy only covers treatment that meets that standard, and the insurance company, not your doctor, is usually the one deciding what counts. Think about what that actually means in practice. Your doctor spends years in medical school, more years in residency, and then examines you personally before recommending a treatment. The insurance company reviewing that recommendation has typically never met you. In many cases, the reviewer isn't even a specialist in your condition. They're evaluating a request against a set of internal guidelines, often without ever speaking to your doctor directly. That gap is not hypothetical. It's the single most common battlefield in American healthcare. Independent research on health insurance appeals has found that a significant share of initial denials get overturned when patients or doctors push back, which tells you something important. It's not that these treatments are usually experimental or unreasonable. It's that the first answer from an insurer is not always the final word on what's medically necessary. It's an opinion position. Most people don't know that they can push back. Most people don't have a doctor as persistent as the one Bill Eskew had, or the resources to take a denial all the way to a courtroom. That's what makes this case unusual. Not that the denial happened, but that it was actually tested all the way through. Bill's treating physician at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston recommended a treatment called proton beam therapy. The reasoning was very specific. This form of radiation could target the tumor while sparing more of the healthy tissues around it, reducing the risk of serious side effects from the treatment itself. Bill's doctor made a request to Shara Health and Life, and Shara sent back a denial. This is the sentence the entire case turns on. In his letter denying the treatment, Shara Health and Life told Bill Eskew that the therapy was quote-unquote considered unproven and not medically necessary. Now, not we've reviewed the latest research and disagree, not here's the second opinion. 2 words didn't work: unproven and unnecessary. Because of that letter, Bill didn't get the treatment his doctor asked for. He received a different, more conventional form of radiation instead, and it came at the cost of his insurer's letter that never mentioned. The alternative treatment damaged Bill's esophagus, He developed severe symptoms that left him unable to eat normally. Bill died in 2017. His widow Sandy brought a lawsuit against Share Health and Life on behalf of his estate, not just for the denial itself, but for insurance bad faith. That's a specific legal claim and it's worth understanding what it actually requires because it's a much higher bar than simply proving the denial was wrong. To win a bad faith claim, it's not enough to show that an insurer's decision turned out to be a mistake. Insurers are allowed to make reasonable judgment calls, even wrong ones, without facing punishment for it. What the plaintiff has to prove is something more specific, that the insurer denied a legitimate claim without any reasonable basis for doing so, and did it while disregarding its policyholders' interests as much as more than its own bottom line. In practice, that means the trial wasn't really about whether proton beam therapy worked. It was about whether Shara actually had a defensible medical reason to call it unproven, or whatever unproven was simply the fastest, cheapest word available for denying an expensive treatment. The jury heard from a radiation oncologist about what proton beam therapy actually does, and from an expert on how insurers are supposed to handle claims in good faith. Shar argued there wasn't enough controlled clinical research to justify the treatment, and that its denial was reasonable. The jury didn't agree. The jury awarded $40 million in compensatory damages. That is the money meant to account for what Bill and his family actually went through. Then in the second phase of the trial, it awarded another $160 million in punitive damages, not to compensate anyone, but to punish the conduct and to send a message about what happens when a claim like this gets denied without real justification. Shara Health and Life appealed. They argued that their denial had been reasonable, that there wasn't enough evidence that the proton beam therapy was medically necessary for this kind of cancer. The Nevada Supreme Court disagreed. It upheld the verdict and finds the jury had been given enough evidence to conclude that Cher's denial wasn't a reasonable medical judgment call. It was bad faith. $200 million over 2 words in a letter. Cases at this scale are rare. Most denied claims never make it to a courtroom at all. They end with the patient either paying out of pocket, going without treatment, or quietly accepting whether alternative their insurer was willing to cover. What makes this case worth telling isn't that it's typical. It's that it shows in detail exactly what a denial looks. When someone has the resources to challenge it all the way to end, and what a court decides once it actually gets that closer look. Bill Eskew never got to see this case decided, but his widow did. A denial is a decision. Someone signs it, someone else lives or doesn't live. But with what cost? That's the class.